What if I told you one of Pixar's most misunderstood characters tried to convince the world that rats are actually your friends? Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what happens in this hilarious Pixar short. But by the end, you might actually start looking at rats differently. So stick around, because this story has a surprisingly wholesome message. It all begins with Remy, the talented little rat from Ratatouille, and his nervous older brother, Emile. One day, Remy decides it's time to clear up one of history's biggest misunderstandings. People have spent centuries believing rats are dirty, dangerous, and nothing but pests. But according to Remy, that's only half the story. Using a giant classroom-style presentation, Remy enthusiastically begins teaching Emile, and us, the incredible history between humans and rats. He explains that rats have lived alongside humans for thousands of years. Wherever people traveled, rats followed. They crossed oceans on ships, explored new continents, and adapted to almost every environment on Earth. In many ways, rats became one of the world's greatest survivors. Emile is fascinated. Every fact sounds more unbelievable than the last. Remy proudly explains how intelligent rats really are. They can solve puzzles, remember complex paths, recognize faces, and even learn from experience far better than most people realize. For a moment, it almost sounds like rats deserve a better reputation. But then, Remy reaches the part of history that's a little more complicated. He admits that humans didn't always appreciate having rats around. As cities grew larger, rats often searched for food wherever they could find it. Since sanitation wasn't very good hundreds of years ago, people naturally blamed rats for many problems, especially disease. Soon, fear spread faster than facts. Around the world, rats became symbols of bad luck and danger. Generation after generation, people forgot that rats were simply trying to survive, just like every other animal. Throughout the lesson, Emile keeps interrupting with funny questions, accidentally misunderstanding the facts and creating hilarious moments that make Remy increasingly frustrated. Their brotherly chemistry turns an ordinary history lesson into non-stop comedy. But beneath all the jokes lies a meaningful message. Remy reminds Emile that judging an entire species based on stereotypes is never fair. Not every rat is the same. Just like not every human is the same. Then Remy explains something that changes everything. The greatest example of friendship between humans and rats is himself. Instead of stealing food like most people expected, Remy became a chef. He worked alongside humans. He helped create incredible meals. And he proved that trust can exist between two completely different worlds. For Remy, friendship isn't determined by appearance. It's determined by kindness, respect, and understanding. As the presentation comes to an end, Emile finally understands what his brother has been trying to teach all along. The world often fears what it doesn't understand. But if people took the time to learn instead of judge, they might discover that even the most unlikely friendships are possible. Of course, Remy isn't saying people should invite wild rats into their kitchens. He's simply reminding us that every living creature deserves to be understood before it's condemned. By the end of the lesson, even Emile begins feeling proud to be a rat, not because rats are perfect, but because they have survived against incredible odds with intelligence, determination, and resilience. And just when the brothers think they've finished their presentation, everything hilariously falls apart in true Pixar fashion, leaving the audience laughing until the very end. If you've made it this far, you're going to love the next Pixar story on this channel. Hit subscribe so you never miss another amazing movie recap. And that's the heart of your friend the rat. The world becomes a better place when we replace fear with understanding, because sometimes the friends we least expect have the most valuable stories to tell.